Hey everybody, today we are talking about the Tatami Time Machine Blues by Tomihiko Morini. The Tatami Time Machine Blues is a story that is a sequel to this book, The Tatami Galaxy. The way that this is a sequel can be a standalone because it is, if you've read this one or if you've watched my review on it, you know that it is basically cut up into 4 sections and they're each different versions of our main character's life. So if he had chosen a specific club to do during college, where would his life lead? And if he chose a different one, that's the new section. Well, okay, now he's going to choose this club instead. How does his life change based on his choices? And how does that change his fate? So this one, the way that it can be a standalone or a sequel is that it is kind of continuing off of where the other one left us, but since that one has basically 4 endings, this one doesn't follow any of those endings. It is its own branch off of a 5th possible scenario of what his life could have been like. So it is based on like a electric train station, I think, that may or may not exist. There was like a club to do research on this station to prove that it actually did exist. That's the club that he chose to be in. So it's not one of the clubs that he did in the original. And so it's kind of because of that, if you didn't read any of these, it wouldn't really matter because it talks a little bit about that club that he had been in and why he quit and then what happens after. And it's basically really hot, and he in his room has an air conditioner, and it's like the only room that has one. And so everyone wants to hang out in his room all the time. And it starts by Ozu knocking over a Coke and it spills on the remote and it shorts the remote out, and so they can't use the air conditioner anymore. And of course our main character is so ticked off and like, if I had only just never met Ozu, things would be so different, which is nothing new. That's how he always is towards Ozu. And so we then find out that one of the like floorboards looks weird. I think that's where it was. They like move it and there's like this weird looking kind of like miniature like vehicle thing in the floor, and they're like, what is this? And it has like little buttons to do like a month and a year, and like a month, day, and year. And they're like, is this a time machine? What? And so they test it by putting Ozu in the chair, and like they're like, let's just send him back to tomorrow. So they do that, and then he actually disappears with the chair and with the time machine, and then he comes back eventually, and they're like, what just happened? And then they realize that, oh, it's a legitimate time machine, but like, how did it get here? How has it been here? And so it's where is it? It's pretty short. So it just explores them using the time machine and trying to figure out where it came from. And the main idea of using it is, well, what if we just go back in time and grab the remote to the AC before it gets destroyed, and then we'll have the air conditioning working again? Like, that's a perfect use for a time machine, right? But then as they go about doing that, like they're preparing to do that, they send some people back and they're like, we'll do like 2 trips or something. They realize that anything they do can change time forever. It can change the universe. So even though they really want that working remote, they start to think, our main character starts to think, actually no, we probably shouldn't do that, because what if it messes up the future? What if things that are supposed to happen won't happen anymore, and like the universe collapses on itself and we're done for? So then they have to decide, how are they gonna like make sure they didn't screw time up and like, how are they gonna fix things? And so then they have to go back. He and Akashi they have to go back to try to stop Ozu and all the other people that went back before them, to try to stop them from actually getting the remote. And so that just like ends up going down a bunch of like crazy shenanigans that happens, of them also trying to avoid their past selves and not run into their past selves. And try to make things go normally, that they're how they're supposed to happen, without like destroying the universe and stuff. And so it's short and sweet, and it's got that time travel element, and like, the classic types of things that you get with those kind of stories, like how are we going to keep ourselves from ruining things that we shouldn't like change? Can we change the future? Should we choose to change the future? Like, if we can, should we even? Or what are the repercussions if we do? So, but since they all have very unique personalities, it causes them to like make choices that aren't the wisest, and the main character is the only one that, well, no, he's not the only one, but he feels like he's the only one that is logical and makes sense and like smart about these kind of things. And so he feels like he has to fix everything, or they'll be doomed. And so he has to just make sure that things don't turn out horribly wrong. And yeah, so it's, I enjoyed it, especially because it was just centered around like 2 days. Like the first part is like August 12th, and then the next section is August 11th, and then the next section is August 12th again. So we just have like one day of time traveling shenanigans, rather than it being this huge story of all these things that they have to do and like save the world by time traveling. It's just like a mini version of those kinds of stories. And I think it was nice if you're just wanting something that's kind of short and time travel is your jam, and like they're college age students. So I like that too. I feel like I prefer reading stories about college age students than I do about high school students a lot of the time. I just kind of feel like I can connect to them a little better, just because it feels like I was once a college age student, like not as long ago, versus high school, where it just seems like it's a totally different world. And so I feel like it's more relatable for me when I read about, college age versus like high school age, if I'm trying to like put myself in their shoes or whatever. But yeah, because it's so short, I don't want to say anything else other than give it a try. If you've read this one, why not read that one? It just makes sense. I mean, if you liked that one, then of course read this one. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.